Just 49 seconds. That's all the time it took for a routine flight to turn into an unimaginable disaster. What began as a standard takeoff ended in tragedy, leaving behind shattered lives and a community searching for answers. Today, we delve into the devastating crash of an MD-83 aircraft in Canada, examining the deadly combination of weather, human error, and overlooked safety protocols that led to catastrophe. Our story begins on a bitterly cold winter morning at Montreal's Mirabel Airport. The date was, insert date, and snow had been falling steadily since dawn, coating the runway, taxiways, and planes in a thick, icy blanket. Airports in Canada are no strangers to severe weather, and ground crews worked tirelessly to keep operations running smoothly despite the storm. The aircraft in question was a McDonnell Douglas MD-83, a reliable jetliner operated by a well-regarded airline. On board were 103 passengers and 6 crew members, all eager to reach their destination in Edmonton. The passengers included families, business travelers, and vacationers, all unaware that this would be a flight they'd never forget. In the cockpit, the captain and first officer were experienced pilots with thousands of flight hours between them. Their confidence in handling winter conditions was high, but as we'll see, even seasoned professionals can be caught off guard by the smallest oversight. Before departure, the crew followed standard procedures to prepare the aircraft. This included de-icing the plane, a critical step in ensuring that snow and ice do not interfere with the aircraft's ability to take off safely. However, de-icing procedures are time-sensitive. Ice can begin to accumulate again within minutes, especially in heavy snowfall, creating a dangerous situation if the aircraft does not take off promptly. After completing the pre-flight checks and receiving clearance from air traffic control, the plane taxied to the runway. The de-icing process had been completed nearly 20 minutes earlier, and while the crew noted the snow continuing to fall, they believed the aircraft was still safe for takeoff. As the MD-83 lined up on the runway, the engines roared to life, and the aircraft began its takeoff roll. Inside the cabin, passengers settled into their seats, bracing for the familiar sensation of the plane lifting off the ground. Outside, the blizzard raged on, with visibility reduced to just a few hundred feet. At first, everything appeared normal. The aircraft accelerated smoothly down the runway, and the pilots pulled back on the controls to lift the plane into the air. But within seconds of becoming airborne, things began to go horribly wrong. The first indication of trouble was a sudden, sharp vibration in the controls. The nose of the aircraft struggled to maintain its upward angle, and the pilots realized they were losing lift. Despite their efforts to stabilize the plane, the aircraft began to pitch erratically. In the cabin, passengers were thrown forward as the plane tilted violently. Panic set in as the engines screamed, and the lights flickered ominously. The MD-83 was no longer climbing but instead losing altitude rapidly. At an altitude of just a few hundred feet, the pilots had almost no time to react. A mere 49 seconds after takeoff, the plane crashed into a snow-covered field less than 2 kilometers from the runway. The impact was catastrophic, breaking the aircraft into multiple pieces and scattering debris across the frozen landscape. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, battling the harsh winter conditions to reach the survivors. Miraculously, some passengers emerged from the wreckage alive, but the majority of those on board perished in the crash. The disaster left families grieving and a nation searching for answers. Investigators from Canada's Transportation Safety Board arrived at the crash site within hours. Their job was to determine what went wrong and how a routine flight could end in such tragedy. The initial findings pointed to a phenomenon known as asterisk wing contamination star. During the 20 minutes between de-icing and takeoff, snow had continued to accumulate on the wings of the aircraft. Even a thin layer of ice or snow can disrupt the airflow over the wings, reducing lift and making it nearly impossible for the plane to stay airborne. Further analysis revealed a critical error. The crew had not conducted a secondary inspection of the wings immediately before takeoff. While this is not always required, the severe weather conditions that day warranted extra caution. The assumption that the de-icing process had fully resolved the issue proved to be a fatal mistake. The investigation also uncovered broader systemic issues. The airline's de-icing procedures were found to be inadequate, with no clear guidelines for handling prolonged delays between de-icing and takeoff. Ground crews were under immense pressure to keep flights on schedule, leading to rushed decisions and overlooked safety protocols. In the aftermath of the crash, the airline faced intense scrutiny. Families of the victims demanded accountability, and aviation regulators called for sweeping changes to winter operations. As a result, new policies were introduced to prevent similar tragedies. Airlines were required to implement stricter de-icing procedures, including mandatory pre-takeoff inspections during severe weather. Pilots received additional training on recognizing the signs of wing contamination and understanding the risks of flying in icy conditions. Despite these changes, the memories of that tragic day remain fresh for those who lost loved ones. Memorials have been erected near the crash site, honoring the victims and serving as a reminder of the importance of vigilance in aviation safety. So, what can we learn from this disaster? It's a stark reminder that even small oversights can have devastating consequences. In aviation, every decision, no matter how routine, must be made with precision and care. The tragedy also underscores the importance of communication and teamwork between flight crews, ground staff, and air traffic control. As we reflect on this story, we honor the lives lost and the lessons learned. The changes inspired by this crash have made flying safer for everyone, but the work of improving aviation safety is never truly complete. Thank you for joining us as we explored this tragic chapter in aviation history. If you found this story meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth looks at aviation disasters and the lessons they teach us. Let us know in the comments, what do you think is the most important factor in preventing accidents like this? Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.